White man dancing. White man dancing on Monday. White man dancing on Monday the 19th, Martin Luther King Day. And we're going to have a little bit toward the end of the show on that. We have a interesting person supposedly coming in, a Muslim who disagrees with virtually everything we do. So toward the end of the show, we're going to bring somebody that's been on the show a couple of times, Saba Ahmed, a woman.
Under my personal protest.
Yeah, well, your mic's not on,
Under my personal protest.
Yes, we'll let you talk to her. You could talk to Saba.
Yeah. I don't want to.
But she'll be on a little later, and she wanted to kind of share how important Martin Luther King Day is to Muslims.
Or you mean as they refer to them, raisin heads?
As raisin heads, yeah. Well, she came up with a new document that Mohammed really loved black people, loved everybody. And so whatever. I mean, that's a little later on, but...
you mean the slave-owning Mohammed?
Yeah.
The one who owned slaves and called them raisin heads.
That's later in the show, on this Martin Luther King Day. People need to know that Martin Luther King was also a very strong Zionist supporter of Israel, which was very interesting. Hey, federal holiday today. Enjoy yourselves on this day off. Learn some history about who he was. And maybe if he was here today, he could walk up to the Temple Mount in Israel and somehow cause the Muslims who are gathering there over the weekend to not do what you're going to see right now. Looks like our Islamic brothers and sisters in Israel, in Jerusalem, don't quite like the frogs, the Frenchies.
No,
Look what
don't.
they did to the flag of the French on the Temple Mount over the weekend.
Now, for our listening audience, they are stomping their feet on the French flag, and not just stomping. Now they're going to decide to burn it. Ooh, that was a good move.
Big
Wow,
fire.
big fire on that one. Yeah. Oh, good. Throwing a couple Allah Akbars too, you know.
There's a crowd of about 500 Muslims.
500.
Yeah,
more like 1,000.
Yeah. This was Jummah prayer Friday afternoon, which was this past weekend. When they leave the Al-Aqsa Mosque, they get a little riled up. They went over and pulled out the French flag, stomped on it, burned it. Now, why did they do that? What's taking place in France that's making them so upset?
Nothing, Tom. Nothing's going on at all.
Charlie Hebdo has now upped the number to 7 million copies.
7 million copies.
Yeah, they normally print 60,000 copies of their, goofy little magazine that makes fun of my peeps, Christians, and makes fun of Jews, and makes fun of Muslims, and makes fun of the Pope, makes fun of elected politicians. It's a kind of a, irreligious, mad magazine. We got them on every street corner here, these types of publications. And the West has them too. But for some reason, Muslims don't like that. And they want to... it's very interesting. You hear some analysts saying, quoting Muslims who are leaving their country, Algiers, Morocco, whatever, and going to France. And the question is, you're going to France to leave Algeria, leave Morocco, leave Yemen to become French? No. We're leaving Morocco, we're leaving Yemen, we're leaving Algiers to bring Yemen, Algiers, Morocco to France. That's the way it works in Islam. That's the clash of civilizations. At the forefront of this for our show today is the issue of free speech. We've been on this a long time. It's a critical issue to deal with. And if you've been following us on my Facebook page, Tom Trento, or the United West, we had a team in place in Garland, Texas, over the weekend, protesting a conference put on by the Muslim Brotherhood entitled Stand with the Prophet Against Hate and Terror. And we're really not lying, because this is really what we're all about. I think that was the name of the conference. We had folks there. We have a great report today from Alan Kornman, who was there a little later in the show. Pamela Geller, she was there. We're going to hear from her live. And then the Muslim woman a little later in the show. But right now, let's go to Orlando, Florida, and hear from the Central Florida Regional Director for the United West, Alan Kornman, at 11 minutes after 4 in the afternoon on the 19th.
Hello, Alan.
Thank you, and welcome to the show.
Good to hear your voice. You're back safe and sound. How was the trip overall? For the folks just tuning in at 11 minutes after 4 on the East Coast, Alan, we have your picture up. We have you on audio. What was your soundbite takeaway from this Muslim Brotherhood conference in the middle of tiny little Texas town, Garland?
Well, the soundbite takeaway, Tom, is that we were amazed by the number of people that showed up at this conference. There must have been close to 2,000 protesters of the event, and it was phenomenal. I believe it was a seminal moment in American history where the American people stood up. They've had enough of Islamic extremism, Islamic violence, Islamic jihadism, part of the global jihadist movement, and that the Charlie Hebdo massacre and slaughter was, I think, the tipping point for the American public.
All right, Alan, I'm going to play Allah's advocate here, like the devil's advocate, Allah's advocate. This conference, and for our viewers and our listeners, over the weekend, on Saturday, an organization, soundvision.com, a Muslim communications organization, had put together a conference entitled Stand with the Prophet Against Terror and Hate. Alan Kornman, what's so bad about a group of Muslims coming together to stand with their religious leader, who the heck cares, against terror and hate, the same thing you stand against?
Well, the problem with that, Tom, is that it's a duplicitous message, because as they gave you that message that you took away from it, they were also sending out a different message where they were saying that the Stand with the Prophet rally, the organizers blamed Islam's bad reputation on the media and so-called America Islamophobes who attacked the Prophet of Islam. Now, that's a whole different message with a whole different meaning than what you had just stated earlier.
Well, let's pull up their Facebook. Hang on one second, Alan. Let's pull up their Facebook page, Stand with the Prophet Against Terror and Hate. And we'll read some of what they presented this as. So you're saying it's duplicitous. This is a very important point, ladies and gentlemen. We have Alan Kornman on from Orlando. He was there. He and Damon. Damon will be on in a little bit, too. They went to Garland, Texas, on the ground, interviewing people, tried to get in. We're going to find out what happened about that right now. But the duplicitous message, very important if we don't want the United States to turn into France or England or Belgium, to be very precise on what this message is. These folks have a tendency to speak with forked tongue. And what is the duplicitous nature of that message? Again, we know the title for their Muslim Brotherhood event, Stand with the Prophet Against Terror and Hate. But you're saying that's not really what they were all about. How do you got any evidence to support your contention, our contention, Alan?
Well, according to their conference webpage, Tom, they say that their conference was about defending the Islamic prophet, Mohammed, from attacks by these groups being the anti-jihadists that were there. And frankly, the anti-jihadists just need to look at the Charlie Hebdo attacks, the Jewish deli, and more importantly, the 2,000 Christians that were murdered by Boko Haram in Nigeria that barely even made a blip on the mainstream press. It is these types of activities that define Islamic doctrine and theology in America, but they are trying to deflect from the actions of the followers of Islam and blame people who speak about it openly and publicly as being the problem.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, very important point here on Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King Day, the 19th of January, as you're driving in your car, listening at home, watching on theunitedwest.org, on teapartycommunity.com, however we are coming to you now. Very important point in deconstructing and dissecting a very dangerous ideology, Islam. Taken in its totality, Islam is an extremely dangerous ideology. Broken down to individual players, there are very dangerous players within the ideology of Islam. And when they want to take very seriously their doctrine, they simply do what is taught and commanded. They get engaged in jihad, and we have detailed that. Notwithstanding the protestations to the contrary, jihad contains a very violent, destructive, death-edged spear to kill Jews, Christians, infidels, anyone who's a non-Muslim, in the right circumstances. And the right circumstances right now are the confrontation and clash between the West. So, but Alan, help somebody just tuning in. I was at an event last night, talked to some folks. They asked me what I do. I explained it, and they said, "Oh, this is tremendous. We're so frustrated with, this Islamic stuff going on," and they really are kind of scratching the surface of Islam. And if a Muslim tells them, "Oh, this isn't Islam," the Charlie Hebdo murders, the Boko Haram, Islamic State, that's not really Islam. That's a perversion or a hijacking of Islam. How do you, as a seasoned counter-jihad analyst and activist, how do you help somebody understand that this is indeed the essence of Islam?
Well, the essence of what I explained to those folks, Tom, is that the essence of Islam is jihad, and whether it's Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, all these different groups, all these different names are very, very confusing to a majority of the American public, but all of those separate groups follow one certain ideology. The only thing that separates them, Tom, are their tactics. And the Center for Security Policy defines that as the global jihad movement, which encompasses all of these different groups, and that is the enemy of America, global jihad movement.
All right, Alan Kornman, our regional director for the United West. Just one or two more questions before we let you go. We understand you went with Damon, who's our producer here. Both of you went. The world wants to know, Alan, because you guys room together. Does Damon pick up his underwear and keep a tidy room? The world wants to know.
Yes, he did, and he was outstanding at the event. We were denied access into the event after buying tickets. There was an element of anti-Jewish hatred is the only reason that we can come up with for us being denied access.
Developing story here, maybe.
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll cue up the video for that.
No, Damon, you tell us. You were there with Alan. What's that all about?
What was what all about? Almost getting kicked out?
No, the fact that you were denied access. Yeah.
Oh, well, we purchased our tickets on Thursday here while we were here, still in Florida, both Alan and I, in different parts, but in Florida.
Got a confirmation.
Got a confirmation that we had purchased our tickets. The money came out of the PayPal account. Confirmation that we had our tickets. After that, we purchased our plane tickets, booked our hotel rooms, and a rental car. And then we went to Texas Friday morning, got on the airplane, went to Texas, and we were there Friday afternoon, around 3 o'clock, I want to say, and at 6 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, received a notice that our tickets had been canceled, that they were, quote, sold out. Now, this building is so tremendous, it looks like a giant flying saucer is the best way to describe this. And in addition to that, on their website, it said that if you got there late and you didn't get a good seat, you'd at least be able to stand and be there for the event. But we were not even allowed past the barricade in the parking lot.
Oh, okay. And it was not only us, Tom. It was also Fox News, Jesse Waters from the O'Reilly Factor, Adam Credo from the Washington
Free Beacon.
Free Beacon.
And a
and a Christian group as well. Christian media group was not allowed entry, as well as several other people that are now coming out of the shadows.
All right, we have a developing story then. We'll continue this story because we've done some research, Alan and Damon, into the rules of rental to outside groups by this public facility. It's the Garland School District facility, and when they rent it out, they have criteria and protocols, and there can be no discrimination based upon federal law, no discrimination whatsoever for use or access to it. So it doesn't matter if your friend or foe does a public event, you have to be let into that public event, case closed. And now if they went a step further, they being the Muslim organizers, and discriminated based upon you guys being Jewish, now we're definitely talking about federal violations of civil law. So we will pursue this. We got a few pieces to put together, then talk to folks that like to go after these sort of situations. But something smells stinky in Garland, that's for sure.
It really does.
So
it really does.
Well, let's see. We got Pamela coming up in a couple of minutes. Alan, you got a question mark?
No. Go ahead.
What do you need to tell the folks at 22 minutes after? Not the internal battle we may be having with this group, but the larger picture. The reason why this conference was put up and the reason why we went to stand against it with others. What is your concluding thought here?
Well, the larger picture here, Tom, is that the American public has had enough. They came out in a force of 2,000. So if you see, as a casual bystander, if you read the headlines and you see the violence around the world, and it does upset you, you do have a voice, use it, because your voice now in the majority and no longer in the minority. So speak up when you see a wrong and take control of what you know is right and support our Constitution and Bill of Rights and free speech against those who oppose it.
Amen. Okay, Alan, and if we have any of that B-roll, the motorcycles rolling in, rolling thunder, rolling into Garland, that's pretty cool. All right, Alan Kornman, thank you very, very much for your work going out there on last-minute deal. And
thanks, Rumi.
Everybody. There was no
thank
trouble.
You, Tom, and thanks for the opportunity. And keep up the good work. Y'all have an excellent show, and everyone needs to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. No. We agree. We agree. But 2,000 protesters there, a whole variety of people from Reuben, Israel. I saw him there screaming and yelling in his bullhorn.
Crazy.
To Tea Party people, to regular Republican conservatives. I hear some B-roll rolling right now, 23 minutes after. No fights, no confrontations, nothing like that. This is the way it's supposed to work. You make a huge, huge impact when a whole bunch of people stand against, who was in that place? Siraj Wahhaj, he's a terrorist.
Yes.
We know that.
John Esposito.
John Esposito.
He's the apologist, the American apologist for Islam over at Georgetown, heads up the Georgetown Foundation on Christianity and Islam. $20 million.
Prince Al-Walid bin Talal.
Yep.
It's amazing. $20 million can make you say just about anything for anyone.
Yes, it can. I'm a Muslim. Tom Drento, give me $20 million. Yes, indeed, of course. But we know the truth. We know what's going on. And somebody who's always on the front lines, yelling, screaming, speaking, arguing, and making sense out of this very complex stuff. Somebody who's a dear friend of ours, who we've done a lot of stuff with, not the least of which was a battle down in Lower Manhattan on Park Street, fighting against the nonsensical mosque being built next to 9/11. That sort of idiocy. I tell you what.
And how about, what was that very important case in Ohio that you guys worked together on?
Yeah. I tell you what, whoever does the marketing for the Muslim community in America, to have this asinine conference right after France, and go ahead with it. Not the brightest thing in the world. Is it, Pamela Geller? Welcome to our show, Pamela. How you doing?
Yeah. Woohoo.
Hi, guys.
How you
doing?
Tom, I want to thank you for sending your team into Texas. It's no small thing. It's incredibly important. What you're doing, what I do at Atlas, what Robert does at Jihad Watch, this handful, the voices of freedom, are so critical in this disinformation age. If not for you, if not for the websites that do what we do, and of course, as you know, we're under attack. I've been under a DDoS attack since Thursday. They've destroyed my site.
Really?
And
Really?
I was getting 100,000 hits a day. No, but there's a reason they're doing that. And that is because they're disarming the American people. When the media, in the coverage of the, quote, Stand with the Prophet conference, which sounds eerily similar to what the jihadists were screaming after they slaughtered the editorial staff at a French weekly. They went into the street with a Nazi salute and they screamed, "We have avenged the Prophet." So the idea that there would be a conference in Texas, not standing for liberal values, and I mean liberal in the very definition of the word,
Classic.
Jeffersonian liberalism, as it were. It was standing for free speech. No, it was standing for the very ideology that incited the mass execution and cold blood of journalists.
Yeah.
And how did the media describe it? They described it as a peace conference. They described it as a peace conference. Tom, the headline was "Anti-Muslim Protest at Peace Conference." That's why what you're doing is so important, because your team was out in the street. Your team documented for your viewers and for Facebook and for Twitter and for Instagram what was actually going on in the street. People holding flags, people holding big pencils, giant pencils, which I can't lie, I brought, representing free speech. It was a purely American effort standing in defense of the First Amendment. That's what that protest was, standing against a conference who seeks to impose the same Islamic ideology that's behind the beheading of not just Daniel Pearl, but of James Foley and Steve Sokoloff and Charles, the editorial staff, the cartoonist at Charles Hebdo. Now, of course, as you see, the media is ridiculing and making fun of protesters. That's what they do. They are at war with the truth. They are at war with the voices of freedom. You are on the front lines, and so are the people, the thousands of people that stood for freedom yesterday.
Yeah, it looked great. I mean, we were getting the reports back from our Texas Rangers. That's what we should call them.
That's right.
Texas Rangers, from Alan and Damon, and going up on Facebook, and we put a piece together, sent it out to Breitbart with you and Robert Spencer on it. That's getting a whole bunch
wow,
of
that
hits.
thing took off on Breitbart. Yeah, you need to. We sent out a piece for Breitbart and with you and Robert on it. Yeah,
I'll send you the link after the show.
Yeah,
That went well.
Yeah,
But
Breitbart has. Let me tell you who was great. Breitbart was great. Well, of course, Trento Vision was great. As I just spent my first comments
Yes.
really saluting you, because, well, no. Listen, people don't know. It's expensive. You got to send a team down there. You have to pay. You have to pay to travel. And while the leftist lapdogs for the Islamic supremacists love to say that the lucrative Islamophobia business, really?
Oh.
On what planet? If you want to destroy your career, if you want to destroy your ability to make a living, if you want to destroy your ability to get a job, do what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And the idea that the richest groups like CARE, last they reported they got $50 million from the Saudis. And the $20 million that you talk about that Esposito fronts for at Georgetown, that was years ago. It's millions and tens of millions of dollars later.
Yep.
And who do we count on? We count on the individual. The majority of my donations comes from my readers, the average Joe, $20, $25. So that's what I mean. It's an extraordinary effort, and I know that for you and for all of us, it's a calling.
It's a calling.
But it was Breitbart, it was Blaze, it was Trento Vision, it was Jihad Watch, it was Atlas Shrugs once, It was Atlas Shrugs. I'm now on Typepad again as we seek to migrate the site off of the server, which is still under this massive DDO. How massive? Let me see if I can explain. It not only took down the host, Media Temple,
Really?
but these hosts, Bluehost, GoDaddy, all these hosts, they really buy servers. They rent servers off of these huge data processing centers. It hit the data processing center. It melted down a couple of servers there. Wow. This was unprecedented. It's war.
That's called cyber warfare. They love you very much, no?
Hey, Pamela, if somebody wants to write a little $25 check or $2,500 check to help you get your website back in action, how do they do that?
You can go to PayPal. You can contribute to you write a letter, WRITE, writeatlas@AOL.com, or you can send a check. You can send a check to Pamela Geller. Pamela Geller is Atlas Shrugs. Just so that you know, I have no staff. I do all the writing, all the editing, all the IT stuff, everything at Atlas. No staff. So when you complain about a typo, remember, it's just me. I love people write to the Atlas team, and I'm like, yeah, me, myself, and I.
We're there supporting you. We're there. Listen, we're sensing a shift particularly in some of the conservatives in America that are simply fed up. I mean, France, seeing that slaughter in the streets and those guys running out, pointing to heaven, pointing to Allah, saying the prophet has been avenged. Very eerily similar to the name of this conference. People who weren't woken up are starting to wake up. What would be your advice right now to that soccer mom that goes, whoa, this Islam thing is a problem, and I got to do something about it here in America? What is your advice to that person who's just kind of entering the fray?
Well, there are so few very good sources because it's been such a toxic subject for so long. And so many in the conservative sphere have been trimming their message so that they can get on television, that the problem that we see is all of a sudden everybody's an expert and they don't know what they're talking about. And that's why you see these apologies on Fox, which are ridiculous. There are zones in Europe. There are zones that if you go and you're not Muslim and you're not wearing the burqa, you will have a problem. It's a fact. There are zones in Europe where police can't go. There are zones in Europe. So this apology by Fox was ridiculous, but it's because they're all of a sudden an expert on a subject that they have avoided for a very long time. And by the way, they're the best of the worst. I mean, CNN and MSNBC. I mean, I was in the airport watching Fareed Zakar. First of all, CNN has absolutely no journalistic ethics. None. The man has been caught plagiarizing. How many times? How many times? Not once, not twice, several times. How does someone like that not get fired?
Islam has nothing to do with terror. Islam and terror, nothing to do.
Islam has nothing to do with Islam.
The other day we did it. The other day.
That's what they're saying. So to your question, Tom, I've been doing this work for 10 years. Robert Spencer has written 13 books. He's been doing it well before 9/11. You have to go to sites with editors, with news editors that you trust. Well, how do you know that you trust them? Well, consistency. Many of my readers, 50% of my readers have been with me for really 8 to 10 years. The others have now come in the wake of these egregious, these heinous, these savage. How was I savaged for using the word savage in an ad? Do you remember how I was savaged?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
In any war between the civilized man and the savage, support the civilized man, support Israel, defeat jihad. Now everyone uses that word. So you have to go with sources that are tried and true, that are consistent. I strongly recommend the web because the news is so, wagging the tail. They're so behind. You got to read Atlas Shrugs. Listen, if you go to PamelaGeller.com, there's a temporary kind of site, but I'm still doing my thing. I'm writing. You go to Jihad Watch, Trento Vision, even Creeping Shariah. The best is religionofpeace.com. They have a running total of the 20, close to 25,000 attacks, deadly Islamic
We do
attacks
the Ramadan Bombathon countdown every year with them. We do it like a football game or a horse race.
Bare Naked Islam. Yeah, they're good sites, and we'll put them up. Pamela, I thought of you the other night. I was in the movie theater. I was watching American Sniper, and the Chris Kyle character played by Bradley Cooper walks into a group of SEALs who have to go out on a hunt, and he simply says, "All right, guys, let's go kill these savages." I mean, really, it was like, because they're fighting these guys.
Right.
And that's the mindset. The jihadist who wants to kill innocent human being has lost all sense of humanity and morality and has become like an animal, like a savage. And Pamela used that term for people blowing up innocent people in Israel and other places, and was excoriated for using that term. But
Because it defends our Muslim sensibilities.
Yes. Yeah, good.
Pamela, before you said that Islam has nothing to do with Islam, and during one of the shows last week, Tom came up with this gem.
no, we were talking about those issues, and I said, I think the situation is that Mohammed himself actually hijacked Islam. That's what happened.
Muhammad
As opposed to all the terrorists that perverting and hijacking it, Muhammad
'Cause he got it
actually
wrong. He got it wrong,
hijacked Islam.
Unbelievable. All right.
No, I do have a question for Pamela.
Yes.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do have a question for you, Pamela. Were you aware that the Fox News reporter Jesse Waters was denied entrance into the event? And we were also, Damon and Alan were denied press credentials into the event, into the press area by the police. And I don't know how much you followed that part of the story or not.
Well, I am very much a part of that story as well, because I had two people that I work with who had bought tickets weeks ago,
Right.
and the night before the event, okay, which was Friday night, they received an email refunding their money, saying it's oversold. It's
Same as
sold
us.
out.
Yep.
So clearly they purged English-speaking names, which
Well-
sounds totally supremacist to me. I did see Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters and I know him, and he was on my plane. And I did ask him to please not look for just freaks and geeks. Look, we're free speech. There's always going to be people that are going to say, whatever they want, and there are always going to be infiltrators that are sent by the enemy to make us look bad. The fact was that was a beautiful rally. If you were there, and you were, the people there were gorgeous, peaceful, singing God Bless America. I mean, and we're living in an era where good is evil and evil is good.
Yep.
It's just that simple.
We will.
One other thing, I just want to bring this up real quick, is one other thing. We do have someone who was on the inside, an unnamed police officer who can't bring his name up,
Of course not.
from the Garland Police Department, had informed us that the people running the event 2 days prior were going through all the names, looking for Jewish surnames and English surnames, and sending them refund tickets back. That's
So that's how it happened. So I was right.
To add to that, we have researched the protocol and the requirements of, that's public space, that's the school board district's conference facility. They have an obligation to follow the civil law on not discriminating against anybody. It's the whole thing's listed. So we're pursuing this. We'll be in touch with you. And if something is there for us to use our laws against them, then we will do that. But until then, what do you got coming up in the future that the folks should know about?
Well, I'm going to do a conference in that building.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. Are we invited?
Let's do a conference. Let's see if they give me my permit. Okay?
Beautiful.
beautiful.
By the way, and you're invited.
We will help you.
I will certainly be there.
We'll co-sponsor.
Invited. I'm going to give you front row seats.
Okay.
Very good. Very, very good. I can't wait to see you, little infidel woman.
All right, Pamela Geller, thank you very much.
All right,
Ladies and
right.
gentlemen.
Right.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on. We'll
The
talk to
hero.
you soon.
All right, take it easy, Pamela. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great job.
No, if she's going to put a conference together, that'll be great. And, the bad guys are going to want to come in. Let them the hell in. My view is, Let them in. Come on in, guys, and listen to the truth. I'm losing my voice. This is going to be...
You are.
Yeah, I got...
We'll show some pictures while you're clearing your throat.
Well,
There's no
actually,
clearing. I got
we're going to show
laryngitis.
the one video we were talking about with the one that's taken off on the
Man,
internet.
is this look at my hair. It's getting so long.
I know.
You look like a freaking hippie.
You're a hippie. You're turning... I don't know what's going on with you.
But that
man.
thing, you want me to braid it after the
Yeah,
show?
years
Put it in a
ago.
ponytail for you?
It would be dark brown, almost black.
Exactly,
All
man.
curls. But now I straighten it. I dye it gray. I dye a little bit of white here.
You're
I
not-
put in.
Oh, he's dying.
I want to look a little older
What's it,
than I am.
naturally white and you dye it gray?
It's naturally. I wanted to look a little older than I really am.
Well, here's the...
I'm such a young guy at heart.
But I'm going to play a little piece here to give your voice a little break here. But this is actually a great piece.
Look for Saba. She should be calling in. I want to.
Yeah.
Speaking of the devil. As you said it.
Euphemistically.
She probably has the place bugged.
Here we go. I'm going to play the little...
Hey, we had
Turn
lunch.
the volume down on the machine first here.
This is the intro that we're playing here for.
Breitbart piece.
Yeah, this is the Breitbart piece that's going on. Motorcycles all rolling in and rolling
it's not
thunder.
a
Damon
counter
Rosen
protest,
reporting
it's
for
a
the United
protest.
West in Garland, Texas at the Stand with the Prophet event. And I'm with none other than the great Pamela Geller. Pamela, thank you for organizing this or helping to organize this. And tell us why it's so important.
First of all, we're not standing with the prophet, okay? We're standing with free speech, hashtag free speech rally, standing for free speech and American flags. We're standing in defense of free speech. People need to understand that not a week after the slaughter of the editorial staff of Charles Hebdo, the Islamic leadership in this country is holding a conference to restrict our free speech. It's the same exact premise. It's the same ideology. It's the same system of governance, the Shariah, that was behind those murders. They seek to impose the same type of draconian restrictions on free speech, and we're saying no, absolutely not.
Damon Rosen reporting for the United West here in Garland, Texas at the Stand with the Prophet event. I'm here with the great Robert Spencer. And Robert, do you view this as a seminal day in American history, a day where Americans have come together and put their foot down against Islamic violence?
Absolutely, Damon. Look, this conference across the street is dedicated to eradicating Islamophobia, which really means dedicated to eradicating any honest discussion of how Islamic
point.
jihadists
Very good
use the
point.
texts and teachings of Islam to justify violence and hatred. And they have too long controlled the discourse and shut down any honest examination of the motives and goals of terrorists by crying Islamophobia. The American people out here are saying enough. Enough is enough. We're not going to stand for this anymore. We demand the truth from our leaders, and we are mobilizing to fight for freedom.
Fantastic. I certainly couldn't have said it any better. Damon Rosen signing off for the United West.
Good
See
job.
you later.
Good job, Damon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was nice weather there too. I mean,
Absolutely
sometimes-
beautiful, and I can't tell you how nice the people at that protest were. I mean, one was nicer than the next, and met a real great group of bikers out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And if any of those guys are listening, because I gave them the information, I'd like to say hello to Benny and the guys in Louisiana that were patriotic enough to ride over 6 hours on their motorcycles, and it was cold the day they came in. So those are some real men.
All right, that's part of our report from Garland, Texas on Saturday the 17th, the Muslim Brotherhood Conference, Stand with the Prophet Against Terror and Hate. We had a team there. We just interviewed Pamela Geller a little bit earlier, her comments. And a little bit earlier than that in the show, we had Alan Kornman on, who was there also with Damon and told us that Damon keeps a very neat and tidy room.
Yeah, he does.
So that's good to know at 45 minutes after the hour. Here on our show, we deal with primarily 4 areas of subject matter. The U.S. Constitution, the State of Israel is our number 1 national security partner, the failures of this guy here, President Obama, on all levels, his neo-Marxist views, and the absolute failure of the system called Islam It's more than a religion, has a religious component, has a political component. And the failures of that system historically to provide sustenance, life, benefit, certainly in the Western world. And we always make a distinction between human beings who are caught up in the system of Islam and the system of Islam. And if you were a Muslim there on that day and you saw all these Americans waving flags, I think people, a Muslim would say one of two things. Either screw these guys, I hate them, or what the heck am I doing here? I live in a different world, a different culture. All of these Americans disagree with me. Is there something wrong with me? Well, we have a woman with us right now who's a devout Muslim, wears the clothes, does all the stuff, as devout as we can tell from...
Apologizes for the religion in every way possible.
All of that. And we're very friendly with her. We have, she's taken us graciously to a mosque. We've had lunch with her. We've corresponded with her. We simply fundamentally disagree with what she believes.
On everything.
On everything. And so I wanted to bring her on to get her thoughts on this conference, and then her thoughts on Martin Luther King Day, because she had mentioned it in my Facebook page. I'd be glad to defend the prophet on slavery and all of that on Martin Luther King Day. So, hello, Saba Ahmed. How are you today, our friend?
Good, how are you?
There you are. Where are you? Are you in a school library or something?
No, I'm at
You're at home.
Oh, you got a pretty home, man.
I'm at a holiday, so enjoying my day off.
Are you in D.C.?
Yeah, she lives.
I am in Alexandria.
Oh, good. Looks like
Invite us to your house.
Looks like whatever you do really pays not very well.
Yeah, you should see our houses.
I think the furniture is worth more than my entire dwelling.
Yeah, we're that Islamophobia industry. We missed out on the payday of the Islamophobia, but we are Islamophobes. We will admit that. We have a legitimate fear of Islam simply because of what we have seen. Now, we understand you as a devout Muslim have a hard time seeing from our point of view. But just share your thoughts for a moment on what took place Saturday. We'll let you have the floor. Go ahead.
So I'm in Virginia, DC area, so I was just watching all the stuff that was going on online. I saw the videos that you guys posted. I saw Damon interviewing Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer and all of you guys having fun, annoying Muslims over there. So
Doing what to Muslims?
Annoying
Muslims?
Well, let her finish. Let her finish.
Well, but obviously I think they were doing a good thing by standing up for the Prophet and defending Islam and saying that we are against terrorism. Islam does not represent terrorism, and we should have some sort of a jihad against terrorism and fight radicals and, do what we can together.
Okay. Do you know Dr. Zuhdi Jasser by any chance?
I did run into him a couple of times here in Washington, D.C.
Okay, what do you think of him? Do you think he is the preeminent Muslim reformer in America today?
I think the way he comes across is very negative. I tried talking to him, and I need to follow up with him at some point, but I think he is alienating the core Muslim base with some of his radical views.
Well, what radical views would Dr. Jasser have for our audience?
Well, if you're talking about reforming the religion, I agree there are things that we need to work on in terms of extremist views and the jihadist ideology. It has to be worked on, and in terms of reformation. But the way he's going about it, calling most of us, questionable and radicals and that sort of stuff, it's going to alienate most Muslims in America, and
all right, well,
we won't get anywhere.
Let's get a little precise, because we here like to be precise. We like to have fun and all of that, and we've been out with you, we've had fun, but let's be precise on this, because we have noticed a definitive change right now on the part of many, many Muslims worldwide after France, the horrible slaughter in France, where Muslims are coming out saying, we need a reformation. This is not Islam. We see a lot of that. But what they're saying is exactly what Zuhdi Jasser has been saying for 10 years. So it strikes us as funny that the guy who has been saying there needs to be a separation between mosque and state We've got to take political Islam out of the Sharia, keep the spiritual Sharia in for personal piety, take the political Sharia out, take the jihad out, and then have this neo-Islam that is benign, that is loving, that is gentle. Isn't that what you want?
Yes, we do. But except that obviously he's been going about it the wrong way. Otherwise, I think his views have been controversial. But I think we could have gotten along much further if he had worked with the Muslim community, and we could have all worked together. I know there have been many people that are talking about reforms and bringing Islam into the 21st century. The religion is the same, but we have to kind of update it as applied to the 21st century. And especially as Muslim Americans, we have a great opportunity to define Islam for us. And, the core values always remain the same. And Islam is kind of a spiritual guide for us. But we don't have to, we don't have the separation of church and state in Islam like you do. So we can kind of work together on seeing what does work and what doesn't work. I think at the core, American values are aligned perfectly fine with Islam, and especially for conservative Islam, they have a lot to align with, especially with the Republican Party platform, if we were to engage politically as well.
All right, there's a couple of areas of conversation that have opened up with your statements, and I told Saba yesterday that if we didn't have time to finish this, we may tomorrow, depending on our scheduling. But I want to stick on, you guys write your questions down. Whatever you did, Saba. These guys are jumping in the air doing backflips.
But she just admitted the whole problem right there.
Well, she did, but that's okay. Gentle.
I never said we were perfect. We do have problems.
Well, perfect.
No.
Let me.
I'm going to shut up and let Tom talk, but I know exactly what you just nailed it perfectly.
Okay, now let's move on. Let's move on. Doctor, what in particular? I happen to know Dr. Zuhdi Jasser quite well. I worked with him quite a bit in the earlier years, 2006, 7, all of that, and I was one of these who said, hey, maybe Islam can be reformed in some capacity. I've since reached the conclusion that it cannot be reformed in any great capacity, certainly not doctrinally. Could it be behaviorally reformed in certain areas on the globe? It's possible, particularly if people follow the law of that particular land like the United States. But specifically, now this is going to be a little difficult for you, but you're making the statements that a guy that I believe is wrong on some religious stuff, but he's what I know of him, he's a true American. He spent 11 years in the Navy. He's a physician. He worked helping members of Congress. I mean, he's a phenomenal American, born here from Syria, his parents. What specifically do you disagree with his platform? Could you highlight an area, say, Zuhdi Jasser is saying this, and maybe it's that separation of mosque and state.
I think his conversations around radical Islam, Islamist, I think when you use the word Islam, it targets the entire population, 1.8 billion Muslims. All of them come in that picture. There are good Islamists, there are bad Islamists. Defining Islam, take the Islam out of the radical extremist violence. That has nothing to do with the religion. KKK or Hitler didn't get to define Christianity, so why should the terrorists get to define Islam? And that's where I have a huge issue, where when he talks, he seems to alienate a lot of us because he targets all Islamists, all Muslims, and telling us all of us are wrong, and somehow he's going to be guiding us back to Islam or something. And we do our best. We're not perfect Muslims. I mean, we pray, we fast, we do the best, and we're living the life of an American Muslim. And yes, there are certain elements of the faith that are being misused by people, but I think we have to work together and we have to find solutions. And I personally think Islam has so much, the whole religion is supposed to be about peace and justice. So if we use the teachings of Islam, we can fight terrorism and end it for good.
Okay, a couple of follow-up points, and are you feeling comfortable with our discussion? Are we forcing you or being nasty or anything to you?
No. I'm really glad we're having this conversation.
Good.
So. I've been having quite a few Facebook fights with people all over.
I know,
I like
I
this,
understand
so.
that. Look, we here at the United West, we're firm believers in what we teach and what we teach about Islam. So we're not afraid for Muslims who hold to this to share their views. I mean, we had Anjem Chowdhury, who obviously disagrees 1,000% with you regarding jihad.
But her view is closer to Anjem Chowdhury's than it is to Zuhdi Jasser's.
Well, that's the question. Do you know Anjem Chowdhury, the barrister, the lawyer from England?
I think he's also like alienating. I mean, they're both extreme sides. Why can't we join in the middle and be like, moderate?
Can we just all get along?
Okay, well, let's do this.
Let's not go towards ISIS or Al Qaeda
Okay,
or
well-
trying to kill each other. Let's try living peacefully with each other.
One thing I ask of you is that we don't have those kind of platitudes on the show. Let's have world peace. Let's all work together. That's wonderful. We all want that. The issue is the policies of a particular belief system and how they align or how they conflict with another belief system. We have Zuhdi going on, and this is a very good discussion. We have Zuhdi, and you threw the word Islamist around. We don't use that. Zuhdi does. Islamist, he defines as one who holds to integrating political Islam in the culture in which Muslims are living, which means you take the Sharia and you ultimately have to have Sharia law, all elements of it, the punitive parts, the social parts, the spiritual parts, integrate it into civil society as a mandate from Mohammed, from Allah, from the Quran. Zuhdi says that's an Islamist, I-S-T. So he's not saying all of Muslims. He's saying those who want political Islam, no separation of mosque and state, they're the ones who are wrong. The ones who want to separate mosque and state are right. What do you want to do, Saba Ahmed? Do you want to separate mosque and state, or do you want to integrate mosque and state?
I think God can provide quite a bit of guidance to our state, but in terms of his definition is exactly what I have the problem with, because Islamist, for me, is any Muslim. As any person who follows Islam is an Islamist. And for him to be defining and carving out, like some people somehow are very radicals, and therefore if they adhere to political Islam, that's somehow more Islamist than others. That's the definition. I think most Muslims don't understand what exactly is an Islamist and why the West has such a big problem with it. Most in Washington, D.C. circles, I've seen that term thrown around a lot, and I'm just like amazed. I'm like, I bet you 95% of American Muslims don't know what you're talking about when you call an Islamist, because for us, anybody who follows Islam is an Islamist.
Okay, we only have about a minute left,
Sure.
and we got a lot to discuss. But just give me a yes or no answer, and a sentence after that. Are you a proponent of keeping mosque and state together, or separating mosque and state here in the United States of America?
Of course, we have the United States Constitution. We can't mix this church and state. There is a very strong separation.
Mosque and state. Do you, as a Muslim, want to keep mosque and state integrated?
I follow the United States Constitution, and all religions are out of the state.
Okay,
realms.
well, we're going to have to follow up on that.
But you just said earlier that Islam mandates that mosque and state be together, correct?
In Islamic countries where they are following Islamic laws, and they do have to follow Islamic guidance. And over here, it's different.
Do you think then, in your heart of hearts, nobody's listening, nobody's watching, you and I just have a little conversation.
Right.
We're not on the internet or anything.
Yeah, we're not. Do you think in your heart of hearts, we only got about 30 seconds. In your heart of hearts, do you believe that America would be better if the principles of Islam were the guiding law instead of the U.S. Constitution? Whoa, what a great question.
I think Islam has a lot to offer the United States, but we're not giving it a chance to even listen to the solution. I think policy-wise, I was working on the tax reform stuff, and I was like, Islamic Sharia wants like 2.5% flat tax. I think Americans would love it, but I don't think they know that Sharia advocates for 2.5% flat tax for all.
All right, we're going to pursue
businesses,
that.
Where does zakat come into that, though?
No, we're going to
That is
pursue.
the
Zakat.
like,
It's
that-
2.5%?
No,
No, it's
hang
not
on,
2.5.
hang on, we
the
gotta-
tax that is in Islam mandated in Islamic Sharia is the
All right,
zakat.
we got to end the show. We're out of time.
We're
We
out of
will
time.
have you back because you opened up some very interesting roads we want to travel down. Saba Ahmed, thank you very much for coming on the show. Will you come back in the future?
Yes,
All right,
definitely.
we'll see you then.
Okay, thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Signing off on the 19th. Tom Trento saying goodbye. See you tomorrow.